You stand alone, and in this moment that solitude cuts deeper than a blade. Your phone lies silent, no flicker of a message. The air hums with stillness, no voice breaks it. The world spins on, relentless, while you drift, untethered, unseen. No one grasps your struggle, no one reaches out, no one even seems to notice. You've been thrust to the margins, perhaps a bond shattered. Perhaps those you trusted faded into shadows. Perhaps life itself tore away every comfort, leaving you stranded in a hollow space, face to face with nothing but your own restless mind. And that feels like falling into an abyss. But hear this now, this is not your ruin. This is your crucible. This is your chance to shatter or to rise. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic titan who steered Rome through plague and treachery, knew isolation's weight. Death stalked his empire, disloyalty gnawed at his trust, chaos clawed at his reign. Yet in his starkest solitude, he didn't falter. He honed his thoughts like a blade, forged discipline from silence, and emerged a colossus whose echo still resounds through time. You are not forsaken, you are being sculpted. The universe has carved this solitude for you with intent. This is your proving ground, to strip away the noise, tame the storm within, and mold yourself into something unbreakable. So here's the choice that defines you. Will you let this moment drown you in despair? Or will you seize it to forge the mightiest version of who you can be? This is Victory Stoic. If you reject victimhood, if you defy the urge to let pain claim you, then subscribe. Like this video, share it with someone who needs its fire, and declare below, I am forged in fire. Speak your truth, because this isolation isn't your grave. It's your genesis. Number 1. Why do you feel alone? Because you expect too much from others. Mark stared at his phone, waiting. It had been 3 days since he sent that message. 3 days of checking, hoping, then sinking into frustration. His so-called friends, the ones who laughed with him at parties, the ones who cheered for his successes, had all gone silent. He thought they cared. He thought they would show up when he needed them. But now, with nothing but silence staring back at him, reality hit him like a freight train. Nobody owed him anything. Nobody was coming to save him. And the truth is, most people live their lives shackled by this same illusion, the belief that others will give them what they expect, that the world will somehow return their kindness, their loyalty, their love, in equal measure. But it doesn't, and it never will. Epictetus, the great Stoic philosopher, said it best. If you want to be free, stop wishing for things outside your control. The root of suffering is expectation. You suffer not because people disappoint you, but because you expected something from them in the first place. Mark had spent years being the nice guy, always showing up, always giving, always believing that his kindness would be reciprocated. But life doesn't work like a fair trade. Some people will take all you have and disappear when you have nothing left to give. Others will simply forget. Not because they are evil, but because they are consumed by their own battles, their own struggles. The harsh reality is that everyone is the main character in their own story, and you are just a supporting role in theirs. When you attach your happiness to the actions of others, you hand them the keys to your peace. You give them the power to lift you up or break you down. And when they don't act the way you hoped, you feel betrayed, rejected, and alone. But that loneliness is self-inflicted. It exists because you built your foundation on something you can't control. Look at history. Look at the greatest minds who walked this earth. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet he wrote in Meditations about the loneliness of leadership, about how even those closest to him could be selfish, unreliable, or driven by their own interests. He did not expect loyalty, kindness, or fairness, because he knew that expectation was the enemy of peace. He did his duty, he acted with integrity, but he never chained his happiness to the actions of others. Seneca, another Stoic philosopher, was betrayed by his own student, Nero, the very man he had mentored. But did he let that destroy him? No, because he understood that humans are unpredictable, flawed, and self-serving. Expecting loyalty from others is like expecting the sea to stay calm forever. It's foolish. So what about you? Are you still hoping that people will understand you? That someone will finally see your worth and treat you the way you deserve? That if you just give enough, love enough, care enough, someone will fill that emptiness inside you? It's time to wake up. The only way to break free from the cycle of disappointment is to shift your focus inward. Expect nothing. Detach from the illusion that anyone owes you anything. Instead of craving validation from others, become self-sufficient. Build your strength, your mind, your purpose, so that even if the entire world walks away, you stand firm, unshaken. Mark eventually learned this lesson the hard way. He stopped waiting for messages that would never come. He stopped chasing friendships that were built on convenience, not loyalty. Instead, he turned his solitude into power. He trained his body, sharpened his mind, and set goals that had nothing to do with anyone else. And when he finally stopped expecting, when he finally let go, ironically, people started gravitating toward him. Not because he needed them, but because he no longer did. And that's the secret. The moment you stop expecting, you become free. Number 2, you are alone. Because you haven't met yourself yet. Picture this, a man slumped on a worn-out couch, the faint glow of a phone screen casting shadows across his face. Alex was restless, thumb flicking through an endless stream of lives that weren't his. Friends grinning in crowded bars, couples posing against sunlit horizons, influencers peddling their polished triumphs. And there he was, marooned in the dim flicker of his apartment, a stranger peering into a world that didn't seem to have a place for him. He had people he called friends, but their words rang hollow. He had a job that paid the rent, but it sparked nothing inside him. He had dreams, or at least he thought he did, until he realized they were just echoes of what he'd been told to want. One night, the weight of it all pressed too hard. He flung his phone aside, let the silence swallow the room, and dared to face a question he dodged for years. Who am I? What do I even want? The stillness answered with a void. He didn't know. And here's the kicker, most people don't. They stumble through life like actors in a play they didn't audition for, reciting lines scripted by parents, peers, or the relentless hum of society. They grind away at jobs that leave them cold, cling to friendships that sap their spirit, chase love that doesn't fit, because they've never paused to ask what's truly theirs. They're adrift, not because the world has turned its back, but because they've never turned inward. That's the root of it. Loneliness isn't the absence of others, it's the absence of self. Solitude isn't your jailer, it's your liberator. Epictetus, the Stoic sage, put it sharply. First, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. But how can you name your purpose if you've never sat alone with your thoughts, stripped bare of the chatter, the screens, the endless noise? Most people run from that quiet. It's a mirror they don't want to face, reflecting doubts, regrets, and the stark truth that they've been coasting through life on someone else's map. Yet that discomfort is where the real work begins. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and Stoic giant, wrestled with his soul under the weight of plague and betrayal. Alone with his pen, he scratched out meditations, not for Rome, but for himself. He knew the battle for strength starts within. You can't master the world until you've mastered the one staring back at you. So if you're alone right now, don't squander it. Don't numb the ache with distractions. Dig into it. Ask the hard questions. What lights me up? Not just what's expected of me. Where do I stand firm, and where do I falter? Am I carving my own path, or trudging down one laid out by someone else? It's not a gentle process. It stings, it burns, but from that fire comes clarity. Once you peel back the masks, shed the borrowed ambitions, and meet yourself head-on, the fog lifts. You stop feeling lost, not because the world rushes in, but because you found your footing. The loneliest soul isn't the one without company, it's the one who's never shaken their own hand. You're alone for a reason. Seize this moment to uncover why. Number 3, you feel alone because you let society define your worth. Jason had spent his whole life playing by the rules. He got good grades because his parents told him that's what mattered. He landed a stable corporate job because society said that was the path to success. He followed trends, dressed how others expected, and measured his worth by how many people approved of him. For years, he thought he was doing everything right, but something felt off. He wasn't happy. He wasn't fulfilled. And worst of all, when he stopped fitting into the mold society had built for him, people started distancing themselves. It was as if the moment he stopped being what they wanted, he became invisible. And that's when he realized the truth. He had spent his entire life living for others, not for himself. The illusion of being left behind. We are conditioned to believe that our value comes from external validation, our job title, our social status, the number of likes we get on a post, and as long as we fit within society's expectations, we feel accepted. But the moment we question the path laid out for us, the moment we step outside the script, people start to pull away. And that's terrifying. It feels like rejection. It feels like abandonment, but it's an illusion. Society doesn't reject you because you've lost value. It distances itself because you've stopped being predictable. You've stopped conforming to what makes others comfortable. And people fear what they don't understand. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, ruled Rome with wisdom and discipline. But even as the most powerful man in the world, he wrote in Meditations about how fickle human judgment is. He understood that public approval is nothing but shifting sand. One day, they praise you. The next, they tear you down. So why let something so fragile define your worth? Your value is not measured by society's standards. If you feel alone because you no longer fit into the expectations of others, consider this. Is the approval of the crowd worth sacrificing your true self? Are you living by your own principles, or are you just chasing acceptance? Would you rather be alone and authentic, or surrounded by people who only like the version of you that pleases them? The truth is, people who define their worth through external validation are never truly free. They are slaves to opinions, constantly shifting, constantly performing. But those who define their own value, who refuse to be molded by trends, who stand by their convictions, may walk alone, but they walk with strength. Seneca once wrote, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve." In other words, if people leave because you refuse to be what they expect, let them. The right people, the ones who value you for who you truly are, will find you. So stop chasing approval. Stop letting society define who you should be, because the moment you break free from that illusion, you are no longer alone. You are just finally, truly yourself. Number 4, turn solitude into your forge. Daniel once trembled at the thought of being alone. The silence wasn't just quiet. It was a gaping maw, whispering that he'd been cut loose from the world. Every idle second, he'd lunge for an escape. His phone, the ceaseless scroll of social media, a flood of headlines and half-read chats, anything to smother the creeping loneliness. But no matter how fast he ran, it always found him, coiling tighter in the dark. Then came the night he broke, not with despair, but with defiance. What if he stopped fleeing? What if, instead of clawing at distractions, he leaned into the void? So he did something radical. He torched the apps that ate his hours, severed the shallow threads of empty talk, and sat there, raw and unshielded, with nothing but his own mind. At first, it stung, a bare, echoing chamber with no corners to duck into. But as the discomfort settled, a revelation ignited. Solitude wasn't his pursuer, it was his anvil. Why solitude is where you hammer out greatness. Most people shrink from being alone, convinced it's a mark of failure. They think strength lies in the clamor. Constant voices, endless bustle, a life stuffed with noise to prove they matter. But history's giants knew better. Marcus Aurelius, shepherd of Rome's sprawling chaos, didn't find his spine in the Senate's roar. It was in the stillness, away from the din of war and scheming, that he penned Meditations, a blade of wisdom still cutting through centuries. Nietzsche nailed it. Great things are forged by those who don't bend to the pull of others. Every leap forward, every world-shaking spark starts in the mind of someone who dares to stand solitary. When you're alone, the crossroads is yours. Waste it chasing shadows of approval, or wield it to sculpt something fierce within. How to wield solitude like a blade, tame the chaos within. The first fight is in your skull. Alone, your thoughts run wild. Doubt gnawing, fear prowling, regrets clawing at the edges. Don't flinch. Face them, twist them into fuel. Make your mind a fortress, not a cage. Carve a path of growth. Solitude hands you the reins of your hours. Don't let them slip. Devour books that sharpen your edges. Hammer your body into something relentless. Hone skills that make you a force. The world bows to those who turn isolation into iron. Cut the craving for noise. Most can't last 5 minutes without a screen's flicker. Rise above that. Real power brews in the quiet you learn to command. Craft what only you can alone. The static clears, no voices, no clutter. It's your shot to build something singular, a vision, a work, a fire that's yours alone. Every legend, every game changer, every revolution was born where the crowd couldn't reach. Solitude isn't a void, it's raw material. Most squander their alone time drowning in self-pity, but the ones who grip it tight, they emerge untouchable. When you step back into the world, you won't just blend into the blur. You'll cut through it, owned, steady, a presence that demands notice. So the next time solitude finds you, don't call it loneliness. Call it a forge, a chance to evolve, to build, to shape yourself into something the world can't look away from. Number 5, forge iron. Discipline, or be ruled by weakness. The alarm rang at 5 a.m. Cold air filled the room. Muscles ached from yesterday's workout. Every fiber of Jake's body screamed at him to stay in bed, to sleep just a little longer, to give himself permission to rest. No one was watching. No one would know. But Jake knew. He knew that this wasn't just another morning. It was a battle. And like every battle, there were only two outcomes. He would either conquer himself or he would surrender. Discipline is not about doing what is easy. It is about doing what is necessary, regardless of how you feel. Most people lose because they wait for motivation, because they believe they need to feel ready before taking action. But motivation is fleeting, unreliable. It comes in waves, and when it disappears, they crumble. Marcus Aurelius didn't wait for motivation. He ruled an empire, commanded armies, and endured the crushing weight of leadership, all while battling his own doubts and exhaustion. Yet every morning, he forced himself to rise and do his duty. He understood what most people refuse to accept. Discipline is the only thing that separates the strong from the weak. If you cannot control yourself, something else will. Your distractions, your emotions, your weaknesses, or worse, other people who have mastered what you have not. To build discipline, stop negotiating with yourself. The moment you entertain excuses, you've already lost. Just 5 more minutes turns into an hour. I'll do it tomorrow becomes never. Treat your commitments like unbreakable laws. No debate, no hesitation. The first hour of your day sets the tone for everything else. Wake up with purpose, move your body, sharpen your mind. Those who win the morning own the day. Discipline is not about feeling like it, it's about acting without question. A warrior does not ask himself if he wants to train, he trains. Discomfort is not the enemy, it is the forge that shapes the strongest minds. The more you seek pain, the stronger you become. Weakness dies in the presence of suffering, and those who refuse to face hardship will forever remain slaves to comfort. Every disciplined action is a vote for your future self. Every excuse, every delay, every skipped step is a rejection of the person you could become. When faced with a choice, ask yourself, what would the strongest version of me do right now? Then do it. Look around you. The weak follow their impulses. They indulge in every craving, waste time chasing empty distractions, and break promises to themselves daily. They live in invisible chains, not of metal, but of their own undisciplined minds. But those who master discipline move with purpose. They are unshakable. They do what others refuse to do. They do not seek comfort, they seek power over themselves. The choice is simple. Will you wake up tomorrow and be ruled by weakness, or will you forge yourself into something unbreakable? Number 6, learn from the great minds who embraced solitude. There is a reason the greatest minds in history spent time alone. They didn't fear solitude, they used it. While others sought distractions, they sharpened their minds. While the weak drowned in loneliness, they built philosophies that would outlive empires. Solitude was not their prison, it was their forge. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in Rome, didn't write meditations in the comfort of a palace. He wrote it on the battlefield, surrounded by war, betrayal, and the constant weight of leadership. He ruled an empire, but in his private moments, he was alone. Isolated by power, by responsibility, by the burden of knowing that no one else could carry the weight he bore. And so, instead of seeking comfort, he turned inward. He wrote not for others, but for himself, reminding himself of the only truth that mattered: control your mind, or be controlled by everything else. Seneca, a man of immense wisdom and influence, was exiled by the very empire he once served. Stripped of his status, forced into isolation, he could have crumbled. But instead, he used his exile. In solitude, he wrote letters filled with the kind of insight that only comes from suffering. He didn't waste his time lamenting his fate, he extracted wisdom from it. His words, written in the depths of his loneliness, have guided minds for centuries. And then there's you. Sitting alone, feeling disconnected, wondering why life has isolated you. You are not the first to feel this way. You are not the only one who has faced silence and uncertainty. But the question is, what will you do with it? Will you waste this time numbing yourself with distractions? Or will you do what the great minds did? Turn inward, learn, sharpen, and emerge stronger. You have access to their thoughts, their struggles, their victories. Read what they wrote when they were alone, and you will realize that solitude was never the enemy. It was the birthplace of wisdom. The same silence that made them great is now in front of you. The only difference is what you choose to do with it. Number 7. Set a goal so big it pulls you forward. There are two kinds of people in life: those who drift and those who chase something greater than themselves. The drifters wake up every day with no real direction, filling their time with tasks that don't matter, chasing pleasures that fade the moment they are experienced. They exist, but they do not live. And then there are those who move with purpose, the ones who wake up with fire in their eyes, who push through pain, who embrace solitude, hardship, and struggle because they are chasing something far bigger than themselves. Alexander the Great wasn't content with what he had. He wanted to conquer the world. Nikola Tesla didn't just want to make a living, he wanted to change humanity's relationship with energy. Marcus Aurelius didn't rule for power. He saw leadership as a duty, a moral obligation to something beyond his own existence. What made these men different wasn't talent, luck, or circumstance. It was mission. Most people feel lost because they are not aiming at anything. They live reactively, waiting for life to give them meaning, instead of taking the responsibility to create it themselves. A man without a goal is like a ship without a destination, at the mercy of every wave, drifting wherever the wind takes him. But a man with a mission? He does not bend. He does not hesitate. He moves forward, regardless of pain, rejection, or loneliness, because he knows exactly where he is going. The difference between those who achieve greatness and those who waste their lives is simple. The great ones choose a goal so big, so ambitious, so consuming, that it shapes everything they do. It forces them to wake up early. It pushes them to work when others rest. It makes their suffering meaningful, because they are no longer just enduring life, they are creating something. So what are you chasing? If your answer is unclear, you are already losing. Stop waiting for purpose to find you. Choose something impossible, something that terrifies you, something that forces you to become the strongest version of yourself to achieve it. If you have no mission, you will fall into distraction, weakness, and regret. But if you set a goal so big it pulls you forward, nothing, not fear, not failure, not solitude, will ever stop you. Number 8, learn to enjoy the small joys. Not every victory is grand. Not every moment of happiness comes in a blaze of glory. Sometimes joy is as simple as the first sip of coffee on a cold morning, the scent of rain on dry earth, or the quiet weight of a book resting in your hands. Ethan used to chase happiness in the big things. He believed that fulfillment would come when he finally got the job, the recognition, the perfect relationship. He worked tirelessly, always looking ahead, always telling himself that one day he would feel whole. But the finish line kept moving. Every milestone he reached only revealed another one in the distance. The happiness he expected never arrived. It was always just out of reach, just one more achievement away. Then, one evening, exhausted and restless, he sat by his window with a cup of tea. No distractions, no phone, just the quiet hum of the world outside. He took a sip, let the warmth settle in his chest, and for the first time in years, he felt something unexpected: contentment. Happiness is not a finish line. It is not waiting for you in some distant future. It exists here, now, in the small moments that most people overlook. The feeling of sunlight on your skin, the rhythm of your own breath, the laughter of a stranger in a coffee shop. These are not meaningless details. They are life itself. Marcus Aurelius, despite being an emperor, understood this deeply. In meditations, he reminded himself to appreciate the simple pleasures, the way bread cracks when broken, the scent of flowers, the feeling of a warm bath. Even at the height of power, he knew that true joy is not found in conquest or wealth, but in presence. If you are waiting for happiness to arrive in some grand form, you will spend your life chasing ghosts. But if you learn to see, truly see, the small joys that surround you, you will realize that happiness was never missing. It was simply waiting for you to notice. So take a deep breath, feel the warmth of your coffee cup, lose yourself in a good book. Let the smallest joys light a fire inside you, like embers glowing in the dark, warming your heart from the inside out. Because in the end, it is not the great moments that sustain us. It is the quiet ones, the unnoticed ones, the ones that remind us that life is beautiful, even in its simplest form. Number 9. You are not truly alone. You sit in silence, feeling as if the world has forgotten you. The messages stop coming. The calls grow fewer. The conversations that once felt full of life now seem distant, forced. You wonder if anyone truly sees you, if anyone genuinely cares. The weight of loneliness presses down, whispering lies. You don't matter. No one needs you. You are alone. But that is not the truth. That is simply the voice of doubt, the illusion that loneliness tries to create. The reality is you are not alone. You never were. Look beyond your pain for just a moment. There are people who love you, even if they don't always show it in the ways you expect. There are friends who remember you, even if they don't say it often. There are people who would be devastated if you were gone. And even beyond those who already know you, there are countless souls in this world who would care about you deeply if they had the chance to meet you. You are not invisible. You are not forgotten. You are not alone. Every great mind in history has faced the same darkness. Marcus Aurelius, despite ruling an empire, wrote about feeling isolated, surrounded by people yet burdened by solitude. Seneca, exiled from Rome, understood the ache of being cast aside. Even the strongest, the wisest, the most admired have walked the same road of loneliness. But here's what they knew. Loneliness is not the absence of people, it is the absence of connection. And connection is something you can build. Somewhere in this world, someone has a life harder than yours, yet they push forward. Someone feels even more alone than you do, yet they refuse to break. And somewhere there is a person who will one day look at you and feel grateful that you exist. Because you do, because you are worthy, because your presence in this world matters. So before you let loneliness convince you that you are forgotten, stop. Look around, look within. You are seen, you are valued, and you are never truly alone. Closing. The universe is forging you, not abandoning you. There are moments in life when silence feels unbearable. When the people you once relied on drift away. When the dreams you once held crumble before you. You look around and wonder if the universe has turned its back on you, if you've been cast aside, forgotten, left to endure hardship alone. But listen closely. Not with your ears, but with your soul. You are not being abandoned, you are being transformed. The universe does not punish, it prepares. It does not withhold, it refines. When everything is stripped away, when you are left with nothing but yourself, that is when you finally see. This is not a curse, but a gift. Every trial, every moment of solitude, every painful lesson is shaping you into something stronger, wiser, more unbreakable than you ever thought possible. Look at the greatest figures in history. Marcus Aurelius led Rome through war and plague, yet in his loneliness, he discovered the wisdom that made him immortal. Joseph in the Bible was betrayed by his own brothers, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, yet his suffering was the path that led him to greatness, to purpose, to divine destiny. The prophets, the saints, the enlightened, they all walk through darkness before stepping into the light. Why would your journey be any different? If you feel lost, know this: God does not make mistakes. The universe does not waste energy. You are exactly where you are meant to be, going through exactly what you need to grow. This moment of isolation is not a punishment, it is your awakening. The fire you are walking through now is refining you, burning away weakness, sharpening your mind, hardening your spirit. And when you emerge, you will not be the same. You will be transformed. But you must trust. If you close your heart, if you resist, if you only see pain and not purpose, you will miss the blessing in disguise. But if you open your eyes, if you surrender to the process, if you step forward with faith, you will see that love has never left you. The universe is not against you, it is guiding you. God is not silent, He is working within you. So stand tall, endure with purpose. You are being prepared for something greater than you can imagine. When this storm passes, you will not only survive, you will rise. Do not despair, do not wait. Act, believe, and watch the universe unfold its plan for you. If this message resonated with you, if you refuse to let hardship break you, if you know deep down that you are being forged into something greater, then take action. Do not let this wisdom be just another passing thought. Stand up, move forward, become unshakable. Subscribe to Victory Stoic and join a community of warriors who do not complain, who do not surrender, who take control of their own fate. Like this video if it gave you strength, share it with someone who needs to hear this. And comment below, I am being prepared for greatness. Tell your story. Let the world know that you are not broken. You are rising. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing growth over comfort, discipline over weakness, faith over fear. The universe sees you, God sees you. And if you trust in the process, one day you will look back and understand this was never the end. It was only the beginning.